Our sponsors for this episode are Harder Custom Welding. Looking for quality welding with a personal touch? Harder Custom Welding specializes in steel fabrication and repair of all kinds. From fencing and livestock systems to custom lawn and garden decor, they bring craftsmanship and experience to every job. No job is too small. From simple fixes to complex builds, they're here to help. Based out of Newton, Kansas, mobile welding services are available to meet a wide range of needs. You can give them a call at 316-217-3819 to bring your project to life. Also, visit them on Facebook at Harder Custom Welding. Harder Custom Welding. Shamrock Car Wash. Shamrock Car Wash has 3 convenient locations in Newton, Wichita, and Mays. They were also voted Best Car Wash in Harvey County for 2024. Shamrock Car Wash offers your traditional hands-on wash bays, but also touts an in-bay touch-free wash and dry for an effortless clean. Make sure to look them up and follow them on Facebook at Shamrock Car Wash. That's Shamrock Car Wash. Or you can visit them online at theshamrockcarwash.com. That's theshamrockcarwash.com. Absolute Drain. Look. No one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. That's 316-283-7264. Or just remember this, 316-28-DRAIN. Absolute Drain. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How is your guys' 4th of July?
I still got all my fingers, all my toes. It's a success.
Andy, did 4th of July go the way you thought it was going to go?
It was really, really good. I had like 3 crazy awesome days where I didn't do anything except for barbecue and hang out with family and friends, so
I'm insanely jealous.
I don't get to do that very often, so that was really good.
Oh, do we need to?
Uh-oh, mic check, mic check.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the audio.
I actually fell down on my job today, folks.
It happens, man.
So if you heard the audio, that's completely my fault and no reflection on anybody else sitting here.
It's all his fault, folks.
Heavy is the crown. Heavy is the crown.
Don't you know it? Don't you know
See,
it?
you know, Chad, it's nice because like, I'm not responsible for anything people hate Chad about in the Kansan.
I've lived a lifetime of that, I'll tell you what.
Right. Just HCTalk. That's
yeah.
The buck stops here, falls on me, you get, kicked around and pushed down, and no, we have a lot of fun. Got some interviews coming out that are real exciting. I interviewed a Professor Bergman from Wichita State University, been there 20 years. That'll be coming out soon. Have a plan on interviewing somebody with CCRT. There's some interesting stuff there. They're in for a name change, and I think it just better describes what they do rather than the name before was very specific, and they've just grown and over time to include more and more things. And so this name change doesn't mean they're doing anything different, but anyway, we'll wait for that interview to come out. So you guys made it through 4th of July. Anything else exciting that you want to cover before we move into the upcoming events? No?
I don't think so.
Chad's got a plethora of stuff he's going to talk about.
Well, I mean, I've just been, I'm surprised that I still have fingers after the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, I had a neighbor that was still lighting off fireworks, 2-3 days.
I saw a Facebook post.
Boom!
Saw a Facebook post last night, and just so everybody knows, last night would have been Tuesday the 8th. I saw a post last night of somebody really upset with their neighbors, and I was just like, yeah, it's time to get it wrapped up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, just got to get that one more off.
You know, and if you still have fireworks and it's simply because you couldn't get them all done, I think maybe next year you need to take a serious look in the mirror and figure out a way to exercise a little more self-control when you head into those fireworks tents.
Well, and I'm not advocating anything, but, you know, if
buy more expensive stuff and less overall.
I just had, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because this morning I was having a conversation with somebody about quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. I would much rather have quality than quantity. One of something that is good versus 10 of something that is necessarily as good. Yeah. Okay, so upcoming events, folks, before we get into the Kansan, because I know Chad's got some things in the Kansan he's wanting to talk about. July 10th, 7 to 9 p.m., Newton Chess Club, Salt Light Confections, 1011 Washington Road. All ages and skill levels are welcome. Club provides the boards, so you feel free to bring your own if you want to. This is what it is. July 12th at 9 a.m., match for Mike's Stem Cell Donor Drive, Newton Recreation Commission, 415 North Poplar Street. I just want to stop there for a second. For people that don't know, there is an employee with the city of Newton in the engineering department, and he's got some grave news.
Yeah.
And he needs a stem cell transplant, so they're doing a stem cell drive. You know, if you can do it, get on a list, man. Because it's quite possible that even if you're not a match with that person, that you could be a match with somebody else and truly save a life.
Yep, I got about a year left before I age out of the database. So it's not hard. It's super easy.
They just swab your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had one a while back for a student at Newton High School.
Yes, they did.
I did that, so it's like, well, if I go up here and do this one too, it's just redundant.
It is redundant. You're already in the database.
So, you know. But, yeah, okay, so then at 10 a.m. to noon, second Saturday at the gallery, Carriage Factory Gallery, 128 East 6, themed Make and Take creations will be provided every second Saturday through the year for ages 4 to 10. This event is free and open to the public. At 2 p.m., Veterans Claims and Resource Event, Newton American Legion, Post Number 2, 400 South Spencer Road. At 6 p.m., there's a steak dinner, Newton American Legion, Post Number 2, 400 South Spencer Road. July 17th, 6 to 8 p.m., coffee and coloring at Norm's Coffee Bar, 613 North Main. 6 to 8 p.m. the same day, third Thursday, Art Walk downtown. 7 to 9 p.m., Newton Chess Club at Salt and Light Confections, 1011 Washington Road. All ages and skill levels once again are welcome. July 18th, 7 p.m., Matilda the Musical by Newton Community Theater at Crable Auditorium, Bethel College, 300 East 27th Street, North Newton. July 19th, 10:30 a.m., Matilda the Musical once again by Newton Community Theater, same place. And then what do we got here? Man, it just keeps coming. 1 to 3 p.m., author visit Jim Ross and Shelley Graham, authors of Route 66, The First 100 Years, Faith and Life Bookstore, 606 North Main Street. 5 p.m., live music, Girl Named Tom, Bethel College Green, 300 East 27th Street in North Newton. And then at 7 p.m., Matilda the Musical, once again at the Bethel College. July 19th, 6 to 8 p.m., and opening receptions for Three Generations, Carriage Factory Art Gallery, 128 East 6th. And we'll just call it there until next week, folks, and we'll give you some more coming up. So there's all kinds of events going on. Just want to tell people, this is not the only way you can consume information about upcoming events. The Kansan does a very good job. Subscribe to the Kansan. All you have to do is send Chad an email and tell him what you have coming up, and they'll put you in there. Well, you have Choose Newton calendar. You can look up Choose Newton, and they have events calendars that are happening in the community. So there's lots of things happening. Usually it's triple covered. We're just another resource to be able to find out what's going on. So, Chad, what is going on in the Kansan?
It feels like one of those days where I want to say what's not going on, because that would be easier. And that's just because I don't know why, but it just, like everything just kind of went ballistic over the course of the last 2 days within County Commission and City Commission. And the big one is that, I mean, to geeks like me anyway, the big one is we started getting some mill levy information on the upcoming budgets.
And that's for the city? Or is that
and
for
the county?
Okay.
and we started getting the evaluation numbers, like the average increase numbers and those kinds of things, and so now is when decisions can really start getting made, to be honest, right?
Because they know what they're working with now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like school districts, same way, right? I mean, you start getting these numbers together, and that's when you can really start making some decisions about what this next budget is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And, for example, after all the numbers were done and everything is taken care, I can't say everything is taken care of, but all these preliminary numbers, City Commission talked last night about restoring funding to the Newton Senior Center.
Okay.
Which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And we can hash and rehash and discuss whether or not the city should be funding that or not. But at the end of the day, it's the City Commission's job to make that decision. So, again, nothing final, but they reached consensus to put that, try and fund their entire request for this year, which the last time they were funded was 2024, and that was at $5,000. And the request they put in for was $20,000.
What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, just real quick, my thoughts on it is, and it could be for argument's sake or something, but when you talk about Newton Area Senior Center, right, or any senior center in any community, I see that as a very important organization to have for the vitality and the viability of an aging population. And I do believe that it should be the responsibility of the city in that respective city, whichever that is, whether it's Heston Senior Center, or whether it's Newton, or whether it's Halstead or whatever. And I would think, like, at least pay the bills. If they are able to raise money on their own for different things, then do that.
And they're going to be doing a lot of fundraising. They've got a roof to replace.
Yeah, but as far as maintenance of the building, mortgage payment if there's one, lights, electric, gas, water, I'm just of the mindset that that's kind of in the wheelhouse of a responsibility of a city commission. Do you guys agree? Don't agree?
I don't know enough about it. Honestly, I haven't. I've heard things, and you hear, there's all kinds of ways to look at it. So I do know that kind of take it out of here. Sedgwick has a really booming senior center downtown there. Mm-hmm. I was able to go and help them put up a sign, a little LED sign that they were really excited about to promote all their events. And because I was putting a sign up, I got to see all the different things they do, like line dancing, and they have lunch together many times a week. And they have so many really cool things that they do there to keep people active and to keep them moving and to keep them in community. I love seeing the little pockets of people sitting in there and having their conversations and having coffee together in the mornings. I just don't know what it looks like in Newton, really, honestly. I have friends that are older, but I sit with them at Norm's Coffee Bar, or I'll meet them for lunch somewhere, or a lot of times I just see them at church on Sunday, and then we have relationships built around that community for me and the seniors that I hang out with. But I also see them at the YMCA, building community there, out where the coffee area is at. They'll go walk, and then they'll sit and talk for 3-4 hours at a time. And I really love to see them doing that. What the senior center in particular does here, I really should know, frankly. But there's probably a problem that I don't. But I can tell you what Sedgwick's doing.
Well, you've been exposed.
Yeah.
In our senior center here, there is a daily meal program. It also is last time I talked to anybody anyway on it, that's also the office for Meals on Wheels. So those two things are operating out of there. There's a full-blown pool league operating out of there.
Yeah.
There's something on their calendar every single day.
Do we have a lot of people taking advantage of that?
Yeah, and I, too much stuff went in here over the course of the last couple of days, so I'm not able to just pull things. But yes, their numbers are good.
Good.
And they've been working really, really hard. And this is a point that both Rod and Leroy made during the discussion last. What is this? This is Wednesday. Yeah, last night. That they've been, over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, the senior center's been really trying to drill in on those numbers, so that when they're sitting there talking to people, they can be accurate and upfront, and believable.
Yeah.
And that was something that was missing in the past, and that's not necessarily a knock on anybody. I mean,
well,
it's going to sound like it, but it's not. It's just they were just doing business in a different way.
Yeah.
And it was in a way that a number of the members of our city commission were like, I just don't know if we can continue to write a check for this.
Well, data drives finances that are given by an entity. I mean, they've got to be responsible
over and over again.
So if I'm a Newton City Commissioner or city manager, and I'm looking to justify the expense of investing in something, but yet there's no numbers, there's not a good way of capturing numbers, or if I'm sitting here going, okay, you guys have these numbers, but how do you make these? That's got to get figured out. That had to get figured out before there was really any.
It's means funding.
Yeah.
It's knowing that what you're funding means something, and that you're satisfying that. And you know, hey, when I was on the board of United Way, all those grants that we did, it was very much means oriented. You had to show it. You know, you didn't just walk in and get money. And it was hard to say no to some, but that just had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know that investment is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's important, like, you know, and just, I mean, if I were to ever sit on a city commission or any political office.
If you sit on city commission, we're doomed if we get.
I'll run this thing straight into the ground, baby.
There's your campaign slogan.
I would constantly
run
want
until the wheels fall off, folks.
I would constantly want to be looking at whatever expense is being brought to me. I would want to look at it and say, okay, is this an investment or not? If it's not an investment, then I'm not sure I really want to do it.
Yeah, and to shorten that up, that's my point, is like if there's 5 people showing up and it's the same 5 people all the time, is there something else we could do with those 5 people where we don't have to have that expenditure, depending on the value of that, right? You have to put it on a scale.
Right.
Because public service is not a business. That is something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around until I started serving on the school board, because I'm very capitalist mindset. Right. And that's the environment that I surround myself with, the people. And I went way deep in that tunnel, to the point of that's just how I saw everything. And in my world, I need to have that hat on a lot. Right. But it's not the only hat. And so one of the things I'm grateful for with serving USD 373 and the capacity that I get to do that, is that I've got to see the side of expenditures for public service that is not a business. And how do you weigh that where you can't be ridiculous and be spending money for 5 people doing something that doesn't make sense, but yet you're not always, or sometimes some departments never looking to get money back. You're just trying to keep things good for the greater good of the whole, and make sure people have services provided for them without the ROI, which was mind-boggling to me. And I thought, you know, in my mindset before, that's why government is stupid, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work, and it's inefficient. But now I'm going, well, no, there's a balance and a dance to both of that. There's a time, to your point, Chad, where you have to make hard decisions and make cuts when it doesn't make sense, to readjust those funds to something else that may have a greater impact. It's not really about the ROI with financial gain. It's the ROI in your community and with people,
Right?
Which is a way different way, and I think a healthy way for entrepreneurs out there, my entrepreneur friends that are watching. Make sure that even in your companies, there's a human capacity to what you're doing, where your ROI is for your people, not just for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I commend you for what you've done up to this point, but just know that if your ROI is all about the bottom line, your companies will never get to the places that they could if you thought about your people first.
Just take a look at GAF.
Yeah, they invest.
Great example.
I mean, it's so this is a huge company, massive, and one of the very first investments, if you want to call it an investment, and I do, that they made in Harvey County, outside of the fact that they're going to build this massive plant, one of the very first investments they made was to donate a roof to a Habitat for Humanity home.
Yeah.
They're not looking for a financial return there.
No.
And they know it.
They're sowing goodwill.
Yeah.
Exactly right. They know that that will pay them back. They know they're going to get a return. They also know that return is not necessarily financial. Okay?
Well, sometimes there's a return.
I'm sitting here talking about it. There's some of your return.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when it really comes down to it, when we choose to do something, many times it's beneficial for us to do something knowing damn good and well that this person can do nothing for me. I'm not going to get anything back out of this. I'm just serving to serve, right? Because think about, and to me, what quality of person you're dealing with if the only time they do something is if there's a return on investment for self, rather than just saying, hey, I know you can give nothing back to me. I know that, this is costing us money to put a roof on a Habitat for Humanity house, but at the same time, it's not about making money off of it, right? It's just about, at that point in time, just giving freely. Yeah. So, okay. What else happened at the commission meeting, Chad?
City Commission?
Yeah. Because I got another city council I want to talk about real quick before you go over to the county.
Well, city and county both signed off on all the final paperwork to get the airport runway project moving.
Okay.
Which is kind of a big deal because in both, and I didn't have time to write all of it, but in both cases, there was at least one member of the commission that was kind of leery to just give the full-on go-ahead, even though today is a big, huge, massive deadline. At the county level, it was about the fact that the airport is going to be completely and totally closed to all air traffic for 30 days. And they don't like that. And I get it that they don't like that, but there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, it's seriously, if we're going to get this runway done, we're going to have to shut the airport down for a little bit. That's just the fact of life. Okay? And all due respects, I really don't care about what's going on down at Jabara Airport because that project is so different. For one, they're not rebuilding a runway. Yeah. Okay? So yeah, they're able to stay open when they build new buildings and extend taxiways, but they're not touching their only runway. And when they do touch their only runway, they're going to be closed. They're going to be closed for more than 30 days. So there's that. And at the city level, it's that there is one grant award, which was authorized. It was the first one authorized a year and a half ago. That has not hit the bank yet, and so he's kind of nervous. And I gotcha.
But they're going out on a limb.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if we don't get Donlinger Construction's stuff done, that's the deadline. Then there is the possibility, no guarantee, that the cost of the entire project goes up again. Yeah. So we've been operating in good faith. Everybody's been operating in good faith, so it's time to pull that trigger, I think. And they did. They did.
And it's one of those things. What are you going to do, right? Yeah. Like we have to close this down for 30 days so we can redo the runway and have it for the next 30 years. You don't have a choice. Well, you can complain all you want. It doesn't change the fact that it has got to be shut down to do it, and you'll have a nice runway.
30 days for 25 years? Yeah, I'm good. And then...
Well, you ain't got a plane you're trying to fly in and out of Newton either, Chad. So, no, I'm just...
I did it one time, fly in and out of that airport. Almost daily. I get it. It will be frustrating. And you know what? Heston College is going to have students that are going to be affected by this thing. It is what it is.
What are you going to do about it?
You know?
It's like a road closure. I'm mad about the road closure.
Oh,
well,
man,
you know
can we get 12th Street open? For crying out loud.
At least they had the forethought to not do it when everybody was going to and from school. Can you imagine what that would have been like?
I'm getting enough extra traffic down my street right now. Let's get that sucker open.
Love it. I love it.
So, and then the other thing that happened at City Commission, kind of as of note, is they're starting the bid process for the demolition of the old Dillon's, Anytime Fitness, Salvation Army, Dollar General, whatever the heck you want to call it, store there on Main Street that needs to be leveled.
Yeah. And so as they move forward on this, because this has been a long time coming, for people that wonder
10
why
years.
It's just sitting here, it's because there's contamination under the ground. The railroad's responsible for that. They were dragging their feet on that. So then what happens is you can't do anything with it until they move all this contaminated dirt out and replace it with new dirt, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm interested, once this thing gets taken down, what do you think is going to go there? I mean, you know, I'm interested. I'm interested.
If you want me to read the tea leaves, I have a feeling that the city is going to turn around and market that property.
Yeah. Well, and sell it. Yeah, maybe an Aldi's.
I think they're going to build a bridge that goes across the train track.
We tried that in the 60s. It didn't work, man.
Or a tunnel that goes under from there. Come on.
You heard it here. First time. School board member Andy Ortiz states that he is going to work hard for you.
That's right.
So
to get that bridge built.
You need to vote him in as a USD 373 school board member this next election cycle, and you will quite possibly, potentially, or he'll do his best in every way, shape, or form to make sure there's a bridge that goes over Main Street.
Some way we could
just check Ortiz.
Some way we could make that a public building commission
there.
project, and then you guys would help fund it.
There you go. I'll get on that right away.
Yeah, I didn't say that he would. I said that he would try.
But best of all, the other piece of this that you cannot forget, I will work to lower water rates.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
You heard it here,
You
folks.
got me.
USD 373 school board member Andy Ortiz, when running for election, will ensure, if you elect him, that he will do everything he can to lower your water rates, and he'll do everything he can to ensure that there is a bridge built over the railroad tracks on Main Street. Is that a good campaign slogan?
And I will make sure the county roads are prestigious.
Yes, all county roads. If right
How
for
far
you,
can we go? How far can we go?
USD 373. It would not only a bridge, not only lower your water rates, but all country roads. He'll do everything he can to pave those.
Those divots are gone.
Yes, and lower your taxes. Yes.
What else can we do?
Absolutely.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Throw everything against
We're going to give
wall.
some state incentives as well.
Yes,
for
of
business
course.
that want to
Of course.
move to Kansas.
Yeah.
To Newton.
Yeah.
We're going to give some incentives.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, work on that too. Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And keep going deeper.
Yeah, we'll
Well,
get some
okay.
tax abatements from the Board of Education.
And I hope I'm not moving on past the Newton City Commission yet, but I saw some interesting stuff that happened at the Halstead Council work session.
Oh, boy.
So obviously, since it's a work session, no action was taken. We're going to have Mayor Dennis Travis on the program. He did a real good job of just presenting his case. It's still a lot of muddy water there for many reasons that probably most people are watching unfold. But interestingly enough, he came and he just did a very good job of articulating why he is trying to keep the door open for the potential to have a BESS development. Once again, they're in the very early stages of this, but he came with his A game when it came to data, and I don't know, we may wind up just cutting that out and putting that out on HCTalk just because I think it's very good information for conversations, but for lack of having this conversation over and over again, how is it that we can change the culture of our community whether it be a micro community within the macro, which is a Halstead community or a Heston community or a Walton community, or these different entities within the greater whole of Harvey County, that people will let the process happen. They will listen to what other people have to say and then come to an educated conclusion. We're still broken on that.
I don't think we will ever be anything other than broken on that, especially. Wow, I feel like I'm talking in my Sunday school class.
Can I ask a why? I mean, you guys, why? I mean, what's the psychology behind the, I mean, in your guys' opinion, I'm going to get you guys into some real muddy, real rough waters here. You know, Andy, I guess I could say apply it to the potential for there to be a future school bond issue. Okay. You know, you will have people that will absolutely, without even hearing anything that's said, they will not look at the data. They will not take the time to research the data and come to a conclusion that we just do not need it. We don't need it.
There's people that have already made that conclusion, and they don't even know what. There's nothing known.
I don't even know everything.
Yeah.
The person that knows the most right now is Fred, as he's navigating the next best step for us. Not knowing what we're going to do, depending on what we do, is depending on where he has to pivot for the district. So he knows just as much. He knows a little more than we do, but it's predicate to the next decisions that we make.
He's wargaming
before he has to start moving forward with some kind of a directive from us as a team. For him to do what he knows what he probably wants to do, but whether he gets to do that or not depends on what the numbers show out, which are still being worked out as we speak. We're going to hear those numbers soon.
Next week, I think.
And then we're going to figure out what those numbers look like and what the marching orders for the team will be. Do we want to stretch? Does that number sound like we can get a lot done with it? What's going to be left off the table if we just take that number? And then what does that stretch look like to not turn off more than 40% of our community to get things done to move us forward, knowing that investment that we make today is going to be cheaper than if we do it another 10 years from now, because that 40 whatever million dollars, that's about a $10 million difference between 2019 and now, just from the work we didn't do last time.
Well, and
$10 million is not nothing.
The bond questions that were out there in 19 and 17 were actually $61 million.
Yep. So you just throw another $10 million on that is what we're going to pay now to do that. Plus, now there are some cool things that have happened. We have good leadership moves where we've been knocking off stuff from that list. So a lot of those chunks have been taken out. But the majority of the have-tos, and I love how you say this, Chad, is the end-of-life stuff. It's not a matter of if, it's we need to do those things, and then we're going to have to go what's left to make these other tweaks, right? The culinary stuff is not like, it's like on fire, but it's not a structure that we have to not let burn down, right? There's things that we can't let burn down, and we got to fix those things first. But we have to have that conversation, and nobody knows what that is yet. Because I'm just as anxious as you all are to get that number and to set with it and talk to people. So I've already had some conversations with some people in our community that are going to have a big influence on this thing. And that's not a bad thing. And they're going to be not for everything. And we need to hear that, because we need to know where those things, and there's going to be some people in that group that are what you're saying, Chad, they're going to be no matter what. But the majority of those people, if you bring them to the table, they're going to be respectful. They're going to ask good, hard questions. And they're going to want to debate you and make sure that if they say, hey, yeah, we're good with what you're doing this time around, they're going to have to stand behind that too. And so having those conversations is not a bad thing. The problem is when you have the small group of people that don't want to hear it no matter what, and they get louder than everybody else too soon, and you don't find out where those reasonable decision makers are within those groups to say, well, hold your horses. And then start asking questions. Why are you getting so up in arms before we have any information? What are you really afraid of? And it always usually comes down to trust. There's been so many things and so many rumors, and some people live in that space and they don't have trust and confidence that we'll do the right thing. But all we can do is hopefully play this. I would hope we would get 70 to 75% of our community moving forward with us, because you're never going to get them all. But I think that's a really big number. and a powerful message forward to the Newton community and USD 373 and our children. And I think we can pull that off. I really believe that. And we're going to work real hard to make that work, because we're going to be responsible, and we're not going to do everything we want to do. We're going to do everything we should do. And I'm going to ask for just a little bit more on saving for the future, so we don't have to put that on a board 15 years from now. But at the end of the day, I think this team in particular, at least the leadership group, is going to be really responsible about what they ask of us as a community to move forward. So all I'm going to do is be a conduit to bring that message to everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I really think we're going to do a good job.
I'm excited. You know, I mean, I have faith in our administration. I have faith in Fred Van Rankin. I think he is an absolute rock star. I think there's a team assembled there as far as USD 373 administration that really is bringing their A game. And I have confidence in the direction they want to go. I have confidence that when there is a conversation to be had, that they will be open and transparent in a way that will educate people. My biggest thing, going back to, you know, you said something about the gossip thing. You know, there will be people that will just be out there throwing shit against the wall, hoping something sticks. I can't tell you over and over again how many times we've navigated through things in a policy and public sector where, well, this is the way this is. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. No, this is gonna, no, that's going to, and that's what's happening in Halstead. And no matter what you say, then you become public enemy number one of them. If you're like, wait a second here, let's have this conversation. Well, I'm not going to have this conversation with you. Well, you don't have a problem going out here and espousing that you know what you're talking about, telling people things like you're coming from an informed perspective, and sometimes maybe that's the case. They do some research and they think that they're on the right path. But
they read a couple headlines on
a blog post,
the Twitter butt,
yeah,
and then they've done some research
and just keep pounding the drum and pounding the drum, pounding the drum, and you're like, well, that's not apples to apples. It's not oranges to oranges. It's not even. It's fruits to vegetables. Here is what we're dealing with, like technology. Anyway, so it's very important to keep an open mind about things, and it seems like, once again, what I feel, and this is a feeling, right? Because it's a premonition, if you want to call it, that in our community, and it's going to be the death of us if the majority doesn't speak louder than the minority. When it comes to, you have the loud minority who's going to show up to meetings, who's, you know, when you're talking 50 people showing up to a meeting. Okay, if you got 100 people showing up to a meeting and you're in Newton, Kansas, I mean, okay, so we're a population of 20,000 people. So does that represent the majority? Or is, you know, I almost want to put out a poll that says, like, for the best situation Halstead, are you for this, against this, or don't care? And I wonder how many people would fall into the don't care category.
I don't know. And I'm not about to reveal where I fall in right now. That whole thing has just, yeah, there's just a ton going on. And this week, some folks got their bows and arrows and pointed them at our county clerk.
Oh, no. Rick, poor Rick.
And yeah,
I love Rick, dude.
Well,
I do. He's a great man and does a great job.
And I'm gonna be I'm gonna do my best to be as fair as I can for everybody here. Okay, that situation is extremely messy. Okay, and I love Rick, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't made a mistake somewhere. And that doesn't necessarily mean he made a mistake this week. It's just, this whole thing is just nutso. And it can be worked out. And I hope that it does get worked out. Because what's going on is, I mean, honestly, what's going on is local democracy at its absolute best. And we just need to make sure that this process moves forward. And so what's happened is that a number of people who are anti-BESS, okay, created a petition because they want to present the Halstead City Council with a ordinance and force a vote on said ordinance by the council. And this is all above board, legal, under state statute. And I'm not going to give you statute number because, again, a lot went into this brain over the last 48 hours. But I've read that statute, and I've read that statute, and I've read that statute, and I've read it again. And on the surface, it's pretty safe to believe that they have enough signatures for this to happen. Those signatures do have to be certified. Under the statute, they have to be certified against the poll books of the most recent city election. That's who's eligible to sign. And the county clerk stated that they could not certify those because they weren't timed and dated. And in the absence of that, they can't certify whether these folks were registered voters at the time of the signatures or... And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I get it. And he cited the statutes for elections of the whatever type.
So they just went out
and
got signatures. That's
so
it, just
so
got
you've got folks down in Halstead are saying no, those are the wrong statutes. And then you've got Rick over here saying, well, in order to certify signatures, these are the statutes that I need to follow. We have competing statutes. That's what we got. I don't know how this is all going to get sorted out. I think it needs to. But one of the things that is in there and in the statutes, so for cities of the second and third class, and that's Halstead, if they are successful in presenting the ordinance to the council for a vote, that vote cannot be vetoed by the mayor.
Because they're pissed that he's vetoing stuff. Right now.
Oh, yes. And you know what? Fine, be upset. I get you.
But that's your form of government.
Yes, it's your form of government, and it's your form of government has been at work.
And I bet you...
And it has been continually at work. And continually at work.
And this is what bothers me about this, is I'm just going to say, they would have no problem with that. The people that don't want BESS facility in Halstead, if the council wanted it to go through and the mayor was vetoing it, and it was in their interest, they would love that. They would support that.
Yes,
that would be, everybody wants government to do what they want them to do, and if anything is a stopgap to allow for the democratic process
to go through,
if that
council would have approved the draft of the special use permit that was given to them, and oh, by the way, at some point they do need to vote on that. And that was created and filed on the 15th. Okay, and I've read it. And that's what it does. It sets up a special use permit. If that council would have accepted that and moved forward, and Dennis would have said no and vetoed it, these guys would be over the moon ecstatic. Okay, but that's not what happened. We're about to go through this at the county level.
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh,
I am not kidding, because on Tuesday,
of course,
on Tuesday, our county commission approved in theory, subject to review by legal counsel and county staff, a moratorium on all BESS projects until January 1st, 2020, in the unincorporated areas of Harvey County. And they did so because they also instructed the Planning and Zoning Board to start writing rules for those kinds of projects. And they don't want somebody walking in with an application,
With no
forcing
rules
their
established.
hands. Because that's what happened in Halstead. Somebody walked in with a possible application, and Halstead turned around and went, well, we don't have any rules to govern this, so we got to get that done. That's what they're doing. Okay, and decisions made under duress are rarely good. And so that's the situation we have brewing in Halstead. We have decisions being made under duress and deadline.
Well, I'd say it's a wise decision to try to address it in advance, especially watching what's going on in Halstead, and this is new technology. But just a question, and I want to kick this over to Andy because I know you're a big economic development guy. Obviously, not all economic development prospects or companies that want to come to your community are always going to be one that you want, right? It's like we want to be selective which ones are complementary to our community. But in your opinion, and we've talked about this, and I don't know how you're going to answer, but what is it just me that thinks that we really do have a group that is just anti-economic development and they're going to try to stop it at any process?
I think so. I think you're going to create a narrative to protect whatever is yours. And as the community grows, there's a lot of spaces and land around us where you go back generations of homesteads and family that come here 4 or 5 generations ago. And as you start impeding on those properties, you're going to have a group of people that don't like it. And so that's just part of the reality. And the hard part about economic development, I think, is when you start, that movie Up, where there's that one house in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
There's a bird's eye view on what that kind of looks like at a ridiculous blown up scale as a cartoon, but yet very real. And that tugs at your heartstrings, and there's a lot there, but that's real, right?
I'm going to Paradise Falls if it kills me.
Yeah. And so I think the answer to that, Lance, is yes. And I do like economic development. I'm just attracted to it. I love the movements of it. I love understanding it. I love being around people that produce and build things and do those things. And I've been able to watch people build great things over the years in my career. It's really hard when you see a group of people that are hell-bent on stopping something just because, and they can't see outside of their tunnel vision. And you're never going to get, not never, you're almost never going to get those people to open up and see things because they have their interest.
Yeah.
And to your point, when you want the government to work for you, it's okay until it's working for the other side. I mean, I think we all do that at some level, right? We're all biased in our own everyday walk. And it's just coming to terms with that and realizing that and going, well, what's the next best thing for the greater good of the whole? Right?
Is there any of that anymore? I mean, we literally have, especially on a national level, have split. They have the infamous whatever, right? And I could get into that, but we don't have enough time today. What I mean by definition of I say they, but your two-party system has created a culture where incitement of one side, incitement of the other side, and then this side is against the other side. They're the enemy, and we want everything we want to be dictated onto everybody else in the form of government being the harbinger of that versus the other. And it's just trickled down. It's trickled down to our community on any local issue. And speaking of what you're talking about, my mind was turning while you're talking, and it's like my heart goes out to people who feel like they're being consumed, right? Their way of life. My family farm has been here for the last 100 years, and the community keeps growing. If the community keeps growing, economic development or no economic development, that means I'm just slowly but surely getting squeezed out.
I think, there's some silly things, and I'm going to try to break this down as quickly as I can. You'll hear things where people say, well, kids in the city think that milk comes from the grocery store. It's like, no, most kids don't think that live in cities. Yeah. Just like most kids, there was that political thing where they had laptops and they were saying that there's a segment of our culture that doesn't know what laptops are. It's just super disrespectful.
Insulting, right?
Yeah, it's super disrespectful.
They've never seen a laptop before. Like, what are you talking about?
And then people in the country, there's people in the city going, well, those country folk, some of them don't even.
They don't have a telephone.
Yeah, it's like,
no internet.
That's just as disrespectful going the other way. I mean, come on. Most of us know that. Are there incidences where you're going to find that? Of course, but it's going to be that real small 0.2% that you're going to blow up and make it look like it's all that way. Yeah. So you get these parties that have this stringent mindset, right, or that type of thinking, and then they start using words such as, and I'm going to try to tie this together, the good old boys club. And that's one I can't stand anymore, because when you want to ask people, what do you mean? Who can you just name who they are so I know where to keep my energy from what you're saying? Like, I'll just know not to say. So go ahead and give me a list of your good old. But then they'll never say anything.
They don't have one.
But they have an idea, but they don't have the balls to say it of who they think the good old boys club is, when really they're part of their own good old boys club. Right? And then realize that everybody has a circle of influence. It's a good old boy club to certain people, depending on what you're doing and what industry you're in or what thing you're doing. And it's so ignorant and ridiculous to say that kind of stuff. And that's such that separating mindset that kind of language tells you where people are, which is usually a pinhole of a view on the world. And it's like, how do you expand that? How do you help people blow through that? And at the end of the day, I'm still thinking on this and still processing. The public sector hasn't been something that I really wanted to be a part of, but I'm really starting to enjoy the journey, which is getting dangerous for those kind of people, because they're going to hate what comes next from me, because I'm all about bringing people together, and I'm all about trying to break down those barriers and those entry level conversations to actually get us to the meat and potatoes on why we do what we do and what's best for our future. And those kind of people don't want to do that. They want what they want. Right? And it's this process that we go through when you hear this triggering language. It's like, it's not that I hate that person. I just feel bad for where they're choosing to be, because I was that way too. That's the only way I can identify it. Because I said at the beginning of this podcast, I was in a very capitalistic group and mindset for about 15 years of my life. And because I needed to survive in that world, I immersed myself in it to where everything else was stupid and ridiculous if you didn't see it the way I saw it. I could go into anything and fix it with my mindset. What a pathetic loser way to think about life and others, right? But I had to learn, and I'm still learning. But it's one of the best things that happened to me is I got put in a situation where I was forced to think differently. And it's expanded my views on things that it's just going to make me better in the end. And I'm grateful for it. And it's hurt, and I've made mistakes. But at the end of the day, I'm going to make it right. Because if you know me and know my heart, that's going to happen. So I got to try not to attack those people when I see my monster in them, but understand them and go back to my roots and go, okay, what helped me walk out of that? What was the person that I met with at the city that said, hey, thank God this isn't a business? And it pissed me off to the point of ridiculous when they were just trying to educate me on the truth of it. Yeah. It's not what I wanted to see through my lens. Yeah. And it took me weeks of struggling with that and talking to other people that I respect, that have been in a position that I'm in longer than I have, that have done it before me, to get a download on how to look at that differently. It's that process, though, of going through that and learning that and letting people in and being vulnerable. You talked about being vulnerable the other day with an interview you had, Lance, with one of our state representatives, with Mike King. And you said, so what I'm hearing from you is that it's being vulnerable. Yeah. And he said, yes. It's exactly right. Invite other people to allow them to cast their gifts on you and allow them to be a blessing to you. Yeah. Especially when you're a person like him, who's a big giver, who can do a lot for a lot of people and who has done that. Sometimes it's okay for that person to receive from their friends as well. Go on somebody else's journey. Let them share their gifts, right? And we are not real good at that today. And I think we're on a way to do that. Our kids get it, frankly, better than us.
Yeah.
We just got to remember what that looks like and invite them on our journey with us. So anyways, I think at the end of the day, we have a lot of people looking through pinholes. We're using a lot of this rhetoric and language from the past, the good old boys club type of language that's just hurting us and separating us, because all that does, when you say a word like that or you say a statement like that, you're already pulling things apart from your perspective on what you think that good old, when I'm sitting there going, well, you actually are the one advocating for those types of systems. Yeah. And I have evidence that I could say right now in front of everybody of where you deployed that. But it was okay when you thought it was okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you justified it to the means of being a bully in the way you did it. But yet you're saying that somebody else was doing exactly what you were doing, and that projection with people to be so self-unaware, where that projection is not even hinted at, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, yeah. There's two things in my college career that I found to be something that altered my way of thinking, and it wasn't that it's just two check marks, right? Who's they? When you say they, who is they? Explain that to me. You can't just say, well, they did this, or they're doing this, or that's the way they think. Who is they? And explain that to me. And then from there, that's like the thing that breaks the mold, because it becomes, especially when you're challenging yourself, well, who is they? And is that a category? And what exactly does they and then you can go down a rabbit hole. But what it is, it's a self-awareness, and it challenges you as an individual to then better articulate what your message is. By then doing that, it makes you more accountable to yourself and to those around you with the message that you're trying to present. The other one is understanding that just because you see the world in this way, because you have a worldview, you are the sum total of your life experience, you know you better than anybody knows you. So what is your motive? Why do you have this motive? How is it that you go, or you think that's the best ways of accomplishing this? And then accept that maybe it's not just your way, that it takes everyone with all different worldviews to sit down at the table together and then come to a consensus between collaboration, communication, and relationship building. And those are two major things when it came to communication for me that came out of my education. So, okay, Chad, you got anything else that brought your eye up at the county commission?
That was the big ones.
Okay.
So, and I started this conversation, with that we're seeing some budgetary numbers starting. So, the preliminary budget that was presented to the county commission contains a 1.88 mil increase. Let me say that again, 1.88 mil increase. They're going to be going through their all-day workshops today, and nothing's going to be finalized until August for any of these. And then the city's preliminary budget that was presented yesterday kept the mill levy flat, and they will be using the increased property evaluation to expand their tax collections. So
interesting.
That's yeah.
I'll have to dive in on that.
Board of Ed still to come.
Yeah.
And every one of these organizations is going to have it's big challenges. And the reason that they're having to do all this now is that they need to get their notices out for whether or not they anticipate having a revenue neutral rate hearing. I really doubt we'll ever see someone hold revenue neutral rate. Ever. That's not spoken as a challenge. That's spoken as a person who understands what that means. Because, you know, even in your own personal life, there's just no freaking way you can always spend the same amount of money.
Yeah.
You know, stuff goes up. And we shouldn't be blaming anybody for that, to be honest, because inflation is a reality of life. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter who's in Congress. We will always have inflation. Period. Now, those people can affect how much inflation we will have, but it'll always be there.
We just need to go back to 10-cent popcorn and nickel movies.
The average is the average is the average.
Yeah.
There's an average inflation rate that's been happening of an increase for forever and a day. And it expands all political parties and all groups. And frankly, all the money we just spent in the gamble we just took, it's going to be something else if it doesn't go right.
It is a huge gamble.
It's a big one.
It's a huge one.
I think
there's going to be a
at 36 or 34 trillion dollars in debt. I don't know if there's any other way to look at that other than we needed to take a big gamble. And I'm hoping that it truly is going to be the golden age. It is not about being political. I just hope for all of us and the rest of the world's sake. Because if this ship sinks that we're in right now in this amazing country that we have, the whole world's hurting. Just know that.
Yeah. Okay, final words, everybody. What do you got? Who wants to go first? Andy, Chad?
I'll go.
Okay, Andy.
Have a great week.
There you go. Is that it?
That's it.
It's simple. Chad?
That's it. My Saturday paper is going to be a lot lighter than my Thursday, and I'm really happy about that. So there you go. And when I say lighter, I'm just not going to be writing such heavy stuff. It's going to be more fun.
Yeah, cool. Subscribe to Canson. My final word is this. Be good to the people in your life. Be thankful for the people that God places in your life, whether it be to challenge you or to help you along the way, or for you to help them along the way, to learn something about yourself, or for them to learn something about themselves. Because the time is short. We never know how long we have day to day. We don't know how long people in our lives will be around. They could be gone in the blink of an eye. We never know when our time is up. So live your life as though every day is your last, and ensure that the people that you have surrounded yourself with know their worth and their value to you. Because in the end, that's all that matters. It's all that truly matters in life is relationship. Everything else comes and goes. Have a good one, everybody.